A surprisingly controversial subject is about branding, and I did a webinar based on this for Relocation Agent Network members a couple of weeks ago, and I thought I'd share some of it with you now as well. How to brand to win premium listings being the subject of what we're talking about. So just before we get into that, like, why is that important? It's obvious, I know, potentially, but just a quick reminder from the one we did before as well, was looking at, in 2023, all the completions for all the properties across the country from land reg. Only 17% of them were over £500,000 plus in value. However, those account for 51% of all of the fees that we are all chasing in the estate agency industry, full stop. And that comes from Land Registry and then Simon Ledbetter's Voice of the Agent survey, when he matched the fee percentages with the average prices of agents across the country, taking into account over 800 estate agents' answers to that. So it's an astonishingly large section of the market. Okay, so let's get into them. This is a quote from your friend of mine, industry stato Chris Watkin, who has a weekly stat show on the property market, and he takes a different town or city each week when he does it. He's done over 70 now, and only in one case out of 70 towns and cities across the country was the same agent number one for the resi market and in the premium market. And he told me who the agent was. I'm not going to say who they are now. I know them, and it kind of makes sense, but they are absolutely the exception to the rule. In 69 other cases, there are different agents that exceed in the premium market and the resi market. So his verdict on that was, for volume agents trying to tap into the... I'm trying to get my head out of the way here. For volume agents aiming to tap into the high-end market, branching out with another brand is essential, and I agree. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you what to do, because that'd be a bit ridiculous, but what I can do is tell you what not to do, because I've seen this over a decade working in this market. I've seen it go wrong, and people waste time, effort, and money. And there's broken down into 3 different mistakes that agents make. Maybe that's why it's controversial. So the first mistake is what I call wrapping. And that's where everyone knows that brand, right? That is Volkswagen. And it's known and liked and respected for its market, which are reliable, mid-range, often family cars. Okay, great. Volkswagen Golf's been around for God knows how long. It is, even in its name, the car of the people, so to speak. You never see this. This is my pretty poor, admittedly, attempt at trying to create a Volkswagen prestige brand or something like that. It doesn't exist. Never seen that before. We'll probably never see it, because Volkswagen Group are wise to this, and they own other brands which achieve this purpose for them. So under the same ownership and company as Volkswagen cars is Audi, to go a bit more premium than Volkswagen. You can go more premium again and look at Porsche, and you can go even more premium again and look at Lamborghinis. And they are, again, all of these companies, all of those brands, all of those cars and products they deliver are owned by Volkswagen. And it'd be a lot cheaper if you were Volkswagen ownership to just do a Volkswagen Prestige or something, but they know that's not how consumer behavior works. That's not how people buy. They want to buy into more than just a logo. They want a story and something substantive behind it, which is why the quality of the finish of the car and the service on delivery, as well as the ongoing service they receive from these companies, is markedly different, and the price tag is different, and the margins that they receive are very different for selling a Lamborghini compared to selling a Volkswagen Golf, of course. The second mistake is what I call the Ronseal mistake. So for those who are fortunate enough to not be old enough, it makes me feel old to know what I'm talking about when I say Ronseal. Ronseal they are a fence staining company. They did a very famous advert, I hope it's in the 2000s, but might be in the 90s. And their advert was, it does what it says on the tin. It's fence staining paint. It does what it says on the tin. Very famous, very effective, and people still use that expression to this day as well, because it was such an effective line. That doesn't work in the premium market, at least that I've seen, and I would avoid, when you're considering how to brand your estate agency to win more premium listings, I would avoid doing what it says on the tin. So if I sort of illustrate that a little bit, we all know what that is. We know what it stands for. Aston Martin are not called Lux cars, nor do they compete with anyone who's called something as sort of obvious as Lux cars, as an example. Marks and Spencers, we all know what that is. We all know what they do. Again, they don't brand themselves, nor do they have anyone they compete with that would call themselves something like Signature Supermarkets, for example. It just doesn't work. Customers don't buy it. Rolex, again, we know what that is. Fancy watches. What are they not called? Prestige timepieces. In fact, they don't compete with anyone who's called anything like that as well. It's important that the offering is substantially enough different that it is not perceived as the same chocolate bar in a slightly more expensive wrapper, because customers just don't buy into that in our industry, outside of our industry. The third one is a little bit more complicated, I suppose. It's called the dilution illusion, which is a fancy word that I kind of made up for it. And I'll pick on a friend of mine and co-founder in By Design, Matt Giggs, because it's a good example, and I can pick on him because he's Matt. So if you imagine this is what his market looks like. He operates in a town called St Neots, very normal market town in the East Midlands, East Anglia. Giggs & Co., his company, again, move my head out of the way, are market leaders, absolutely dominant in the residential market. £300,000-400,000. If you look on Rightmove, they are out there in front. They've been going for over 10 years and they've pretty much been number one almost since they opened. It's an incredible story. Of course, what Matt wants to do is to win more premium listings, because the fees are higher and the values are higher, and therefore the overall income is significantly higher. And if you want any information on that, have a look at the webinar I did previously about the value of the premium market, but obviously Matt knows this and he gets it. So what Matt could think of doing is saying, I don't want another brand because people know Giggs & Co, they know me, it's a well-respected brand in the area. I'm just going to push it upmarket to say here, and I'll pick up more stock at the £700,000 mark or something like that, let's just say. This doesn't work, and is also very dangerous as well, because you can end up with the worst of all worlds. If you move your existing brand too far up market, and especially do it too quickly, there's a trade-off that you make, which is that your customer base that know, like, and trust you for dealing in this case, £300,000-400,000 houses, suddenly think, oh, well, are they no longer for me? That's changed. I don't understand it. Is that relevant to me anymore, or should I instruct a competitor? Equally, the more well-known you are, the more successful you are in that residential market, the less your brand is associated with the premium market, because that's what you're known for. Just as the first example we gave was Volkswagen cars, they're known for that affordable, good quality family market. They're not known for premium. So it doesn't make sense for them to alienate their customer base and try and move that up market. So to do this not only would not attract the customers that Matt would want, but also it alienates his existing customer base from a very successful business. It's a lose-lose. So don't do it. The perception of diluting my brand by adding another one in is actually the complete opposite. You dilute your brand if you start to dilute who it's targeted towards. So don't do that. Little red cross. What Matt's done, which has made perfect sense, is to reinforce his brand in the market that it's strong in, and then introduce a differentiated brand for the premium market, which in this case is By Design. Could be anything, but By Design is the business that we created. It is the most straightforward, the most affordable, and the most effective way of creating a premium brand for your agency. Green tick, happy days. So what is the overall solution to this? There's the book there, it's a very good book and probably quite well known. Less well known, actually, and I got this from Simon Gates, is that Chris Voss, who wrote that book, which is a great book, and I definitely recommend it, is a hostage negotiator talking to you about how to negotiate. He, weirdly, is also an estate agent, and he wrote a book called The Full Fee Agent. It's also an audiobook. I definitely recommend that as well, and that came from Simon Gates, but that's a great book. Do read that. Anyway, the point of it here is to not split the difference when it comes to your brand. And the agents, my head's in the way again. Where do I need to put this? So what is the solution here? So I put this book on screen because never split the difference. The idea being, don't split the difference when it comes to your brand. It's a great book, and actually just a quick reference to Simon Gates, because he recommended a book that Chris Voss, the hostage negotiator who wrote this book, he actually also weirdly is a real estate agent, and he wrote a book called The Full Fee Agent, which is fantastic. So I would definitely recommend reading that if you haven't done already. What should agents do then? Create a differentiated proposition, create a differentiated service and a differentiated brand if you're going to operate in a different market. It undermines what you're doing if you smudge it and spend a little bit of money adapting what you're doing. What works better is create a wholly differentiated proposition. Coming back to what Chris said here, I'll finish where we started, which is that the crystal clear takeaway here is that for volume agents aiming to tap into the high-end market, branching out with another brand is essential. And hopefully some of the things we talked about there, even though they're a little bit ethereal and outside of the day-to-day of estate agency, I sort of didn't want to use actual estate agency brands because it gets a bit personal, but shows the wider buying psychology of people. It's pretty clear what his advice is, and hopefully you feel reinforced in that position from what I've shown you here today as well. So that's it. If you wanted me to explain how buyer design works, or actually probably even better to do a personalized market report on the value of the premium market in your area so you could assess whether it's worth making that investment or not, just let me know on the details here, QR code, socials, and I'd be very happy to do that without charge or obligation or anything like that. I hope that's been useful. Catch you next one. Bye.